It's so cold. The earth is already white outside. Before the spring festival, it snowed heavily for several days in a row. The warm and gentle mountains and rivers in the south of the Yangtze River were frozen. Outside Jinling City, a dilapidated small house stood alone on the wasteland outside the village. The house was in dilapidated condition. Although it was in good condition when it was first built, without maintenance, the house quickly fell into disrepair. The pot on the stove in the house is frozen, and the stove pit has long been filled with dead ashes. It seemed that this house was no longer inhabited, but there was an old woman lying on a broken bed. She lay motionless, except for the occasional movement of her eyes, which let people know that she was still alive. She was once the famous second wife of Jia Jiabao, but today she is a lonely old woman in a dilapidated house with no one to care about her. Although she was groggy from the illness, Baochai felt empty in her heart. The roof of the dilapidated house she lived in had long been broken, and snowflakes were falling. It was the coldest time, but her only son was thousands of miles away, making his last effort for spring. He no longer has any ideals of glory and reorganization of the family business. He only hopes to get a good name and have a place to settle down in the future. In his life, he has seen glory and wealth and also experienced hunger and cold. I have experienced flowers and endured cold looks and ridicule. It looked like he was not going to survive. It was snowing heavily outside. The broken window paper was shivering with the sound of wind, and sporadic firecrackers could be heard in the distance. It's the new year, and after the new year it's spring. At that time, Geyer should also have an end. It's just that I'm afraid I won't be able to see that day. Baochai's cloudy eyes shed a few tears. She raised her hand to touch it in surprise. The watermarks on her hand surprised her. She still shed tears occasionally. Since Bao Yu became a monk, she has finished crying. But why is she still crying? The former glory of the Jia family has long since become a dream. The family has fallen into decline. She lives a numb life with a stone that can never be warmed. The old mother is left alone in her family to live a difficult life. Later, Bao Yu left, and she suddenly felt relieved. Because watching Bao Yu stupidly thinking about Sister Lin all day long, thinking about all the past, is a kind of torture for Baochai. Although she had to endure Mrs. Wang's scolding and work hard to support her family, Baochai was very happy because she knew where her hope lay. The Jia family was really in ruins. The old lady died. Jia Zheng and Jia Shi were found guilty and sent to a remote place and exiled to the army. Only a few old women and children were left in the family. Mrs. Wang controlled the family's money and took the rest of the family back to Jinling. Of course, these people did not include people she had always disliked, such as Jia Huan and Jia Shi's family. Mrs. Wang just left with her beloved Bao Yu and Baochai. She actually left her sister, Aunt Xue, in the capital. She even told Baochai confidently that it was because she was not from the Jia family. Thinking of all the things Mrs. Wang had done to Aunt Xue in the past, Baochai couldn't think of anything to say. Thinking of the scene when she went back to say goodbye, Aunt Xue lived with Xue Biao's family, dependent on others and helpless. Aunt Xue was already an old woman with no energy at all. She held her daughter's hand and cried for a long time and just said one sentence, "It's all me that delayed you." If you didn't listen at the beginning dash before she could finish her words, the mother and daughter were already in tears. Who said she was a girl and couldn't support the family business. She started a new life along the journey to the capital. At that time, she still had hope in her heart. After leaving the capital, Bao Yu might be able to forget Sister Lin and get back on his feet. But these were all her wishful thinking. Baochai smiled bitterly. How could Bao Yu forget the past? He was born to regard fame as dirt. Bao Yu finally let go. Bao Chai looked at the empty room with her mother-in-law crying and cursing in her ears, but she felt a sense of relief in her heart. Finally, I no longer have to face Bayu's face. Her life should no longer be immersed in feudal sighs. What's the use of sighs? If she could be a man, she wouldn't sigh and complain like Baoyu all day long. She feels even more relaxed without her husband, who has become a shackles and torture to her. It turns out that women do not rely on men. If it was Sister Lin who married Baoyu, what would he look like now? I don't know what Sister Lin would be like if she faced the same situation as herself. Either Sister Lin is like me, working hard to survive and working constantly to support her family, or Sister Lin's body can't support it until now. Will Baoyu still feel sad about Sister Lin? Will you still talk coldly to her and treat her like nothing? Bao Chai is not too sad after losing her husband. Raising her children is her only goal. She gritted her teeth and did countless needlework all day long, from morning to night. She was not afraid of hard work. Jia Gui was also a sensible child. Finally, Mrs. Wang died of endless resentment, and her ears were finally clean. After burying Mrs. Wang, Bao Chai suddenly felt that her whole life had been delayed by her. If she and her mother hadn't discussed the golden mock joke, she wouldn't have been able to marry Baoyu aggrievedly. Although Bao Chai's background is not as good as those of the official ladies, she is also a pampered and spoiled rich lady. Even if she cannot achieve success, she can still find a reliable lifelong support. As a result, she became a tool for her mother-in-law to satisfy her selfish desires, and her whole life was ruined. Hate was out of the question. Bao Chai just thought that if she could do it over again, she would never take the same road. These are not important anymore. Bao Chai knows that she still has more things to do. She worked hard to raise Jia Gui until she was an adult. She, a young lady with a lot of money, actually went to work in the computer room. She was almost exhausted. In the damp and dark computer room, she weaved desperately and earned her hard-earned money one by one. In this way, she finally raised her child and allowed Jia Gui to go to school smoothly and become a scholar. Watching Jia Gui go to the capital to attend the Spring Festival, just when she was about to see victory, she could only lie in the dilapidated house and listen to the sound of firecrackers celebrating the festival outside. A smile appeared at the corner of Bao Chai's mouth. She felt that her body became light and airy, and her life was over. As night fell, Bao Chai took her last breath while thousands of families were celebrating. She drifted away from this body and floated towards the sky. There was a magnificent archway in front of her. Bao Chai couldn't help but stop and think about the time when there was such an archway in the Grand View Garden. At that time, the sisters followed Grandma Lu to look at Grandma Lu's peep show. The past things slowly came to life in their yellowed memories. Bao Chai was hesitating about where to go when suddenly he saw Qingwen coming to him. "Miss Bao, the fairy is calling you. You come with me." As she said this, Qingwen walked in with Bao Chai in front. She looked back at the way she came and saw that everything was gone. "Qingwen, where is this place?" Qingwen smiled as if she had seen through Bao Chai's thoughts. "This place is an illusion. We are all souls who have returned from tribulations. Today, I finally understand that those who are masters and slaves are all unlucky people." As Qingwen waved her hand, the clouds gradually dissipated, and Bao Chai saw at a glance that it was his son Jia Guizheng who had gained fame and returned happily. But she was already dead, and she could only watch Jia Gui crying sadly against her little grave. Next, Jia Gui became an official and was highly valued by the emperor. But what does this have to do with her? Her tablet and Mrs. Wang's tablet were placed together, becoming a kind of decoration. It turns out that all I have fought for in my life is a tablet. It's all just flowers in the mirror. Miss Bao has always been a sensible person, and she will no longer be like us who had some wishful thinking. Only you know whether filial piety to your children and grandchildren is true filial piety, Miss Bao. Don't you understand yet? With that, they all arrived in front of a palace. The curtains were rolled up, and Bao Chai saw a fairy sitting in the middle, and beside her was Lin Daiyu. Bao Chai suddenly remembered that she was still wearing tattered clothes. After experiencing all these hardships, she was no longer the dignified and gorgeous girl Bao Chai was. When she was hesitantly looking at the clothes on her body, she suddenly realized that she was still wearing the same old clothes that she often wore, and the shiny golden locks were still hanging well. Mr. Hengwu, you are well. All the people on the official list of 12 hairpins have returned to their places. After countless experiences in the world, you should let go of all the things in your heart. Fairy Jinghuan put down the book in her hand and smiled at Bao Chai. The heavy golden lock around her neck made Bao Chai feel uncomfortable. She finally no longer maintained the so-called peaceful character appearance and said to the police fairy, "I am not willing to accept it. Why did I end up like this? If it happens again, I will definitely not be like now. What a fate, I finally understand. Instead of letting you manipulate me step by step, I might as well risk my life. My life is in my own hands." Bao Chai angrily tried to take off the gold lock around his neck, but the shining golden necklace inlaid with treasures didn't move at all. Fairy Jinghuan was very surprised by Bao Chai's behavior. Daiyu and Xingwen on the side all laughed and said, "I didn't expect Bao Yada to be as aggressive as she is today. I really didn't expect it. It's all because of that demon King Baoyu." For a while, the sisters came forward to persuade Bao Chai. Sister Feng said to Bao Chai, "You have always been the most peaceful and easygoing person, but how could you have violated the Nuxingwega's temperament? Everything in the previous life was just a passing thing. Why are you still angry? You are the most rare person among people. You have been tortured for so many years because of Jia Gui, so you can just give it up." Fairy Jinghuan said to Bao Chai, "You still have something that you can't let go of, or you still have Baoyu in your heart." Fairy Jinghuan's words aroused Bao Chai's thoughts. With frost on her face, she said to Fairy Jinghuan and her sisters with a cold face, "Don't say it's Baoyu. It's Baoyu who caused me all the suffering I suffered down there. But when I think about it, I can't blame Baoyu entirely for what I've become like. It's all my mother's fault. I was deceived and I didn't know how to do it. Now that I knew that Baoyu had a wishful thinking about Meyer, I stupidly jumped in. Even more so, I was deceived by my good aunt. Unfortunately, I was also spoiled at the beginning. Although I didn't dare to compare with these sisters, my family also had some assets. If she had found a reliable man as her husband, she wouldn't have ended up like today." As she said this, Bao Chai couldn't help crying as she thought about her past relationship. Sister Feng knew this best, so she quietly took the girls out together. Waiting to come out, Sister Feng sighed. "My aunt is the most calculating. Baoyu is her best friend, but everyone else is disliked by her parents. Aunt Xue is a person with no ideas. Panner in the family is not sensible and cannot establish a family at all. Naturally, Aunt is more partial to her son. Bao Yatu is also raised in a boudoir. How do you know this?" Everyone recalled that Xue Pan was involved in a life and death lawsuit at that time, and Aunt Xue was at a loss. The marriage of Baoyu and Bao Chai was left to Mrs. Wang to decide. Tianchun thought about the day when Bao Chai and Baoyu got married, and Daiyu passed away alone in the Xiaosheng Pavilion. She said fiercely, "Now I am not willing to be told by Sister Feng. Why do those men insist on asking women to suffer along with them if they don't live up to their expectations?" Everyone thought about Tanchuan's career of marrying far away. She went to a place thousands of miles away alone. Tan Chun was a trophy, and life would be sad to think about it. Dayu stepped forward and took Tan Chun's hand and said, "Today it seems that it would be cleaner for me to die like this, and I would save myself from being plotted by those shameless people." The sisters all sighed and didn't mention it. In the main hall of the Fantasy Fairy, Bao Chai was facing a fateful choice. Since you still can't let go, it's okay, and I'll call you back to the past. Do you dare to go back? But you can't reveal the secret. Even if you pity some of them, you can't tell what happened here. I want to see what kind of lifelong support you can find for yourself. Bao Chai clenched her fists and looked at the police fairy. I will definitely not make the same mistake again. The two people's eyes met, and Fairy Jinghuan suddenly pushed Bao Chai. You idiot, if this is the case. Stop complaining. Tu Taishi returns and wakes up from the dream. Bao Chai was pushed by the police fantasy fairy, and she suddenly lost her balance and fell into the clouds. She only felt that she was falling rapidly, and with an exclamation, a voice sounded in her ears. "My son." Then she felt that she was being held in a warm embrace. When he raised his eyes, the worried woman hugging him was not his mother, but that one, Mom. Bao Chai's throat was suddenly filled with sorrow and tenderness, and she threw herself into Aunt Shue's arms and cried sadly. Bao Chai fell into her mother's arms and cried sadly. Aunt Shue felt relieved when she saw that her daughter was finally getting better. Her husband had just passed away. Although her son was a good child, he was not very smart by nature. Only this daughter had been smart since she was a child. Her husband told Aunt Shue several times during his lifetime that Bao Chai, the brother and sister, was the one who could shine on the doorstep. It's just a pity that she is a daughter. Before his death, her husband asked Aunt Shue to take good care of Bao Chai so that she could have a good home. After her husband passed away, the family was in a state of chaos, but Bao Chai was by her side to comfort and support her. Unexpectedly, just after the funeral, Bao Chai suddenly fell ill and had a high fever all day long. Aunt Shue was so anxious that Shue Pan even ran out all day to look for those good doctors. Unexpectedly, after countless doctors were called in, Bao Chai's condition showed no sign of improvement. Finally, Aunt Shue remembered the cold-flavored pills and gave them to Bao Chai, and she gradually got better. Touching Bao Chai's head and seeing that she no longer had a fever, Aunt Shue felt a stone fall in her heart. She hurriedly told the two little girls, "We are happy and sorry. The girl is awake. Bring the remaining medicine to the girl." Aunt Shue said, stroking Bao Chai's hair lovingly, "But it's okay. If you are good, who can I rely on?" Or maybe Aunt Shue couldn't help crying again. Inger, who was beside Bao Chai, came up with a small tea tray. There was a bowl of huangbai soup and lingxiang pills on the side. Bao Chai's mood gradually calmed down. She looked at the surrounding furnishings, Aunt Shue's expression and clothes, and realized that she was in Jinling. Seeing Aunt Shue wearing a lotus green coat with a white skirt underneath, she understood that this was the time when her father had just passed away, and she thought about the love and education her father gave her when she was a child. Who would have thought that if he lived his life again, he would still not be able to see his father? Thinking about her father, Bao Chai couldn't help but her eyes became red again. Seeing her daughter's expression, Aunt Shue hugged Bao Chai and said, "My son, I know you are sad, but our family can still live a good life at the moment. There is still me outside. Even the Side clan can't easily bully you while your father is gone. It's really impossible for me and your uncle and aunt talk about it. The officials in Jinling always want to save the face of the Wang family and the Jia family." Aunt Shue thought that in recent days, some members of the Shue family often looked at her husband with covetous expressions, and some people came to the door to say some irrelevant things. How could Bao Chai not know this? She lowered her eyes and thought, "Why should my mother hide it from me? After my father passed away, every man in the family who can support the family will naturally have some people coveting our family property. I just want to remind my mother that although my uncle and aunt can be relied on for the time being, for the present, the most important thing is for our family to be strong. From now on, my brother will be the backbone of our family. Aunt Shui couldn't help but sigh after listening to Bao Chai's words. That's what you said, but you don't know your brother's temperament. He is a sincere and silly boy. I don't dare to push too hard. Now, I only have 2 life roots. Son, if I hurt either of them, it will cost me my life. Aunt Shui sighed again and said to Bao Chai, that's all. Money and everything are external things. I just want you two to be good, and I don't care about that. As Aunt Shui asked Dinger to serve Bao Chai and take the medicine, the taste of the cold-flavored pills in her mouth was very subtle. Although it smelled fragrant when it was actually taken into the mouth, the aroma was gone at all. There was only a bit of bitterness left, so Bao Chai quickly drank the medicine in her mouth with Huang Baiteng. It was so bitter. Why hadn't she thought of this before? People only saw that Miss Bao's family had tens of millions of assets, that she was dignified and beautiful, and that she was married to a good-looking woman like Bao Yu. The second mistress of the Rongua mansion must be extremely famous. Just like this pill, it smells enviable, but only she knows the taste when she puts it in her mouth. Inger frowned and watched Bao Chai down the Huang Bai soup in one go. She hurriedly handed Bao Chai a glass of water. Girl, the Huang Bai soup is the most bitter.